Hello and welcome to Digital Animation 101. What I've just put in the chat for everybody is a website called joinpd.com, and there is a little code that is to get into the PowerPoint presentation that I will be going through. It's interactive, an interactive PowerPoint, so you can click on that or go to that website and type in the code and you can be a part of the PowerPoint. I'll also be sharing my screen so you can see the PowerPoint if for some reason you're not able to join in the interactive PowerPoint. So I'll just give you guys a minute or so to log into that Pear Deck. I already have 3 students in the Pear Deck. That is great. I love Pear Deck. Okay, so let me share my screen as well so you can see that. Okay, so here's my screen. And as you can see, I have the code up here as well. And I'm just gonna click off of that for a second. On this first slide, while we're waiting for people to just kind of trickle in and join, the first thing you should do is download OpenToons, which is actually the software we're going to use to animate today. So you're going to actually get to make an animation, which is really fun. And if you are in the Pear Deck, you'll notice that you can actually kind of like draw on the PowerPoint slide. And the reason I have that is just to inform me as to what kind of device you're using. So let's say you're on an iPad, you can circle the little iPad logo or the, the word iPad. Or if you're on a Chromebook, you can circle number 3, you're on a Chromebook. Or if you are on a Mac, Windows, Linux, you can circle one of those icons for Mac, Windows, or Linux. It's pretty fun. You could just kind of like draw on the slide. And then I can get an idea or sense of what kind of device you're using, since I know that not all of us are on the same kind of devices here. And great question. Someone asked for the Pear Deck code. I will actually just go ahead and put that in again because it's not on the screen right now. Actually, you can see on my screen, the MXLGF is on the top right corner. That's actually the code for Pear Deck is on the top right corner of the presentation on my screen. All right, I got some more participants coming in. This is really exciting. And in order to download OpenToons, I mean, obviously you can always just go onto Google and type download OpenToons. But if you are not able to find the correct website, I have also posted that right now into the chat so that you can just click that link and it'll take you straight to the website. But again, you can always just Google like OpenToons download. It is a safe website to download from, so don't worry about that. You can just go ahead and download if you have a Windows or a Mac or Linux. And I'll actually just share my screen, screen right here. On that website, it might be a little confusing at first. I just realized if you're at the top of the page, you do need to scroll down until you get to the place where it says click here to download. And you'll see the green one, OpenToons, that's the one you want. Don't click the other fun colors. The green one that says OpenToons, and you just click on that and it will ask you for Windows or for Mac. And if you're on a Linux, you should be running Windows with your operating system. So, yeah. So if anybody needs help with that, you can let me know in the chat for now. And if any questions pop up during this time, there is a Q&A option at the bottom of your screen. It says Q&A. It has looks like a little 2 chat icon. If you click on that, you can actually ask me questions in the Q&A and then I can respond to those questions as we go through the lesson. And no worries if you're late. I'm gonna go ahead and go back to join PD. So those of you who just joined late, that is the Pear Deck that you can join and the code, as well as the software you should download. And don't worry if anybody does come in late, we are gonna quickly review how to download it a little bit later on. So I'm gonna get started in approximately 2 minutes so that we can get started. Give me 1 sec. Some people are having trouble getting the link. No problem. Oh, I see already 2 Q&As. Thank you for those of you who are using the Q&A option. Oh, I got a great question about how to do this on the phone. Okay, yeah, that is the question. The ideal, so some of you may have multiple forms of devices, as many of us do. Number 2 is really the best option for today and is gonna be the easiest one to use. I would say if you're not someone who's particularly tech savvy or want a lot of support with the technology, I would go with number 2. Have yourself a Mac, a Windows, or Linux on a computer. It could be a desktop or a laptop. Or if you have the Surface Pro, that's a Windows computer also. I do not recommend using your phone or iPad or Chromebook, but if those are the only means of software, only means of hardware that you have right now, for the phone, you can download Rough Animator, which is $5. That's the only software today that I'm gonna mention that you have to pay for. But Flip a Clip is free. So if you're on your phone, you can actually just go to Flip a Clip and download that for free. Okay, so it is officially time to start. So if you have not downloaded or still need support there, don't worry. We are gonna go over that a little bit later when we start actually doing our animation. Oh, I see someone use the raise hand icon. I'm not gonna call anyone who's raised their hand. Just take that question that you have and you can put it in the Q&A chat. So whatever question you have there. I would use OpenToonz. Blender's fantastic, and if we have time, I could show you that, but we're gonna be in OpenToonz, the one that I've circled here. All right, so getting started. Let me get my panel up. Here it is. Welcome again, for those of you may come a little late. Welcome to Digital Animation 101, and today we're gonna be talking about digital animation, number 1, but also about software and hardware to use and how to get started, because that can be a little bit confusing at first. And so there's 3 objectives for this 40 minutes. And that is what hardware and software to use for animating and digital drawing as well. The different types of animations and the skills required. And number 3 is you're gonna create your first animation. It's gonna be really, really exciting. So the first question that I have to pose to everyone is, why do you want to learn animation? So, why are you on this call? If you're in the Pear Deck, please respond in Pear Deck. It says to respond in the chat. However, in the Pear Deck is easiest for me to see. I already love the first answer. Someone has said, it is fun. I do not disagree with that. It is very fun. Some of you are already drawing. Some of you are starting as people who like to draw and maybe want to learn animation. I will give you guys about 30 more seconds to respond in the Pear Deck. Oh, we have someone who does stop motion. Very impressive. All right, and we'll wrap it up there. Thank you for those of you who responded. I'm really very excited that some of you are really excited about learning something new. Okay, so next up, we are gonna talk about hardware and software. So for hardware and software, we'll start with the hardware first. We kind of briefly talked about this, but some of you who may have come in a little bit later. Number 1, number 2, number 3, either you're on an iPad, Android, iOS phone, you're on a computer with Mac, Windows, or Linux, or you're on a Chromebook. So in the Pear Deck, you can circle which one you're on currently. Again, those of you who came in late, Chromebook is not a good option. Number 2 is the best option. Number 1, you can get by. pretty well on an iPad. Phone is kind of pushing it, you know, if you're using a smartphone, although these days their phones are pretty big, so they're kind of like mini iPads at this point. Okay, I see a lot of 2s. Someone's on their phone. All right, cool. We have most people who have responded in the Pear Deck are on a computer. I think using Pear Deck on a phone is pretty difficult. So kudos to you who's been on a phone and on a Pear Deck and on the Pear Deck. That's very impressive. Some people are on tablets. All right, I'll move on now to part 2 of hardware. If you are number 2, if you're using a Windows, Mac, or Linux, you will need a drawing tablet. So to get that more natural feeling, like you don't want to be drawing with a mouse. That is not fun. I used to draw with a mouse when I used my old Windows computer, and I used you know, Windows Paint. That was fun. But you want to be using a tablet. And I put these in here. The Wacom Intuos tablet is pretty good. It's about $80. And then there's the Huion, which is $40, so half the price, which is nice, you know, if you're on a budget. And this is also a really good tablet. The reason why I include the Intuos is because Wacom is a very reputable brand. It's, you know, good stuff. And also, if you are someone who is using a Chromebook, you actually can't use an XP Pen or a Huion. You have to use a Wacom Intuos tablet. So this is the only tablet, the Wacom Intuos, that is somewhat compatible with a Chromebook. And I say somewhat because it's still not like great, but it is much better than using a mouse. Definitely much better. And again, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and put those in the Q&A. I see some still accruing here. Thank you for your questions. I will be pausing to answer some of those a little bit later. Also, if you want to get really professional, you can go for a Cintiq, which is what I'm using right now. I'm using a very small one, not like Terry Crews over here. If any of you are fans of Terry Crews, he is a fan of art, and he has this gigantic Wacom Cintiq that he draws on. And the one on the left is a very small XP Pen Cintiq. You can get those for like $450, or you can get a really big fancy one for, you know, $2,500. It really depends on your budget. And also I say professionals, because if you're someone who's like, I don't even know if I like digital art or drawing or animation, and if you realize you don't like it and you spent like a whole bunch of money on one of these things, you know, that could be not great for your wallet. Another thing to just briefly mention is why this class is called digital animation. And that's because really what we're doing is digital. It's on the computer. And back in the day, back in Disney, they would have paper and pencil, good old fashioned paper and pencil. And you can see here, that's Raj from Aladdin. This is Aaron Blaze. This is actually the same person in both pictures. He's one of my favorite animators. His name is Aaron Blaze, and he is really the poster child for Wacom because he used to do digital drawing, traditional drawing, and he really advocates for digital animation and digital drawing. He thinks it's the future, it's really great, and he's someone who was actually trained using just pencil and paper. So I just wanted to give that idea. And traditional animation, to be quite honest, is not really a thing anymore. Even the 2D animations that come out, like Princess and the Frog and things like that, are all done on Wacom tablets like this. Software, we already talked about this, but repeating for anybody who came in late, we're using OpenToonz. Please make sure that you have downloaded OpenToonz. And if you are someone who came in late and did not download OpenToonz, I'm putting it right now back into the chat so you can actually see where that link is. So you can go to that link right now if you came in late to download. And just a reminder that these are just tools. These are not going to make you the most amazing artist and animator in the world. Just like, you know, you give Leonardo da Vinci a crayon, he'll make some pretty good art. But it's not going to give you those skills. You do still need to learn how to draw, how to animate. And these are just tools that you can use. So just because you get a more fancy, expensive tool is not going to mean that you're going to have all those skills right away. Which brings me to my next point, which is Animation 101. And here I have put an option to draw. So you can circle under the green, yellow, or red. That stands for beginner, intermediate, or advanced. So if you think that you are a beginner when it comes to drawing, you can circle the B, that little green button. If you feel like you're intermediate, you can go ahead and circle that little intermediate. And if you think you're advanced at drawing, you can circle that advanced, just so I can get a gauge of where you guys are with drawing. And drawing and animating are two different skills. So you can be very good at drawing and maybe not as skilled in animation. So people who are illustrators, who do a lot of illustrative work, right? Or you can be very skilled at animating, but maybe, you know, drawing is not really your thing. And an example of that is people who are 3D animators. Maybe they work at Pixar and they do a lot of 3D, or maybe stop motion artists who use physical puppets. Or you can be skilled at both. And that would be someone like Aaron Blaze that I showed earlier, who is somebody who is very skilled as a draftsman as well as an animator. And I put in asterisks, or you could be, you know, not good at either. That's okay. But you can build those skills. They're skills. They're not things that you were born able to do. You can learn all those fantastic skills. Seeing a huge range here, by the way. Lots of beginners, lots of advanced, some intermediate. Like, there's a huge range. Someone was drawing something on here too. I see you. That's great. Yeah, very interesting. So example here is, if you're gonna, you know, build your skills as an artist, you're gonna need to know the art elements, art principles, line, color, texture, balance, unity, movement, rhythm, form, etc. And a lot of you may have learned this stuff. I've also given the option, you can circle some of these that you find particularly interesting or that you want to learn more about. You can circle on this page. But basically, these are things that you should know if you want to do any kind of art. You should know what these are and have some sort of understanding. When it comes to animation, there's actually another set of principles that is very specific to animation itself. And that would be the 12 principles of animation. And sorry for those of you who are drawing, I'm gonna go to the next one. 12 principles of animation, as you can see, are actually separate from those other art skills. Now, you do need to know those other skills and stuff, you know, to get into art, but these are very unique to just animation itself. So just emphasizing the point that animation is another skill that you would have to learn. And really quick, we're going to talk about some types of animation. So get ready to interact with the Pear Deck. Go ahead and circle which animation style you are most interested in. Actually, I have a really quick question. Are these are GIFs. They're not animated on my side of the screen. I just want to make sure, are you guys seeing these as animated GIFs by any chance? You can just like put that in the chat. No? Oh, someone said no. No. Okay. Okay, thank you. Looks like no. Very sad. That's kind of difficult if we want to be able to see things in motion and cannot do so. Let me, All right, give me just 1 second. And again, you can circle which type you are most interested in, whether it's 2D, 3D, stop motion. And you can circle more than one if you're someone who just like wants to do all the things. That's completely fine. I just am very sad that the GIFs are not animated. I promise they were before. So I'll just do one more thing. See if this works. Please hold for technical difficulties. There we go. Okay, give me 1 second. All right, how's this? So those of you who are in the Pear Deck, you may not see them animated, but in my, get out of here. All right, in my screen here, you can see now it's animated. All right, nailed it. Okay, so here we go. Yay, now you can see them actually moving. That's very important. If they're not moving, you can't call it animation, right? You can't do that. Okay, so now I'm gonna go to the next slide, which is this slide is just a whole jumble. If you look at my screen, you can see them animated. And on the Pear Deck, you can circle which ones are your favorites. So these are lots of different styles. So we talk about the types of animation, and within those types, you can have lots of different styles. Like you know, 3D can look very different. Stop motion can look super different. Like all these things can really be adapted to your style. Hey, somebody noticed Animal Crossing, my favorite video game right now at the moment. So I'm gonna post again into the chat for all of you who are not able to get into the Pear Deck. Oops, I cut off the J in join PD. That's supposed to say joinpd.com. Those of you who came in late, you could just join there. So just circling, like what are you into? What kind of animation? I see some people are into the anime. Some really like the painted look. A lot of stop motion fans here. Quite a mix, quite a mix. Pretty good. Yeah, so there's a lot you can do. I also really like the Spider-Man movie. It's pretty great. And just, I remember someone responded saying like, hey, I'm not really good at drawing. I don't think I'm a particularly good artist, but I'm really interested in animation. And I just wanted to make the note that being able to draw, and I don't like using the being able to, but having the skills of drawing is not the be all end all of being an artist. And I love to give this example. This is Alan Becker. Whoops, this is Alan Becker. He is an animator who literally only uses stick figures. So if you were one of those people who says, I can only draw stick figures, hey, you can be an animator. you can make art, all right? You can be an artist. Stick figures are not a excuse to not make art. So that's why I really like his animations. They're pretty fun. He's really great. And if you ever want to check out his stuff, his name is Alan Becker. Okay, and I am right on schedule. This is fantastic. It is actually that fantastic time to start animating. So here's where we're gonna get started and go straight into making your very own animation. And it might be a little painful at first because some of the software will look really new, may look kind of complicated. Don't worry, like riding a bike. It's terrifying the first time you get on, but then, you know, it just becomes second nature. So I'm gonna put in for the 10th time, the link in the chat is for OpenToonz. Please, 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 please make sure you go to the OpenToonz website. It looks like this. And you scroll down until you see OpenToonz, the green button. And forget about these other colors. OpenToonz, the green button. And you'll see it says either download for a Mac or download for a Windows, one or the other. If you are not using OpenToonz because you are on a phone or an iPad or a Chromebook, you can use one of the other software. However, you'll just be drawing, or you'll just have to use the tool yourself, but you're still gonna draw the same things that we're drawing. So you're still getting that animation skill, just not the specific software that you're using. But remember, there's just a tool. It's like if we're gonna do, you know, a painting together and somebody's using a crayon and somebody else is using a oil or pastels or something, you know, different tool doing the same thing though. Okay. So don't worry if you're not in the Pear Deck. I'm gonna go ahead and open OpenToonz. Open OpenToonz, say that 10 times fast. And at this time, if you are someone who is in the Pear Deck, I'm going to turn the Pear Deck into student paste. What that means is you actually can go back to any slide that you want at this time. I would hope that you're on the slide that I'm on, which is actually this one, because it'll give you directions. But the reason I put it on student paste is so that if you wanted to go back and look at something else, you can just go back to any slides that you want and take a look at those, okay? Or you can go forward too. And see the last slide. But this is what we're gonna work on right now, which is the actual directions. So the first thing is to download OpenToonz. Most of you should have done that at the beginning, or maybe you're in the middle of doing it. You're gonna open it, and you're gonna also name your scene. I'm gonna show you how to do this in a moment. Whenever you're creating a scene, and this is also for those of you who are not using OpenToonz, you wanna make sure your settings are 1920 by 1080 pixels, always. Don't have it inches, that's way too big, but pixels. And also, whenever you press the letter B in OpenToonz, you will have the brush tool, and that will mean that you're able to draw. And I'm going to show you this right now for those of you who are in OpenToonz. So let me go ahead. This is my OpenToonz. I was just making a little guy walk before, but anyway, I'm going to go File, New Scene. All right, I'll just close it and open it again so that you can see what it looks like. So I open OpenToonz. Wow, let's say that 10 times fast. Okay. And you can say cancel here. And this little pop-up screen is going to come up, and it's going to say scene name. You want to name your scenes. Always name your scenes. And you can name this if you want, first animation. And what we're going to be animating, drum roll please, is the blink of an eye. Quite literally. It will not take as long as the blink of an eye. It will take a little longer than that, but we're going to do an eye blink. So you can call it whatever you would like. Just make sure that you're able to find it and save it in a place that you can find it later. And the great part about OpenToonz is it already has the resolution at 1920 by 1080 for you, and it already has the frame rate at 24. If you're in Flip-a-Clip or Blender or another kind of software, it usually has it at 24, but sometimes they throw 30 in there. We always use 24 frames per second. Not going to get nerdy and technical about it right now, but you can always ask me questions about it later. So we go to Create Scene. And now we have this little red X in the middle that shows us the center of our stage. I'm going to call it a stage because, it's kind of where we're at right now. I just put the link again in the chat for those of you who are a little lost. And before I move forward, the rest of the time is going to be straight animating. So I want to know if anybody is having serious technical issues getting this open or needs me to repeat something real quick. You can raise your hand in Zoom. Where's Zoom? There it is. Can't get into OpenToonz, what should I do? Somebody asked, I can't get into OpenToonz, what should I do? What do you mean by you can't get into it? Have you downloaded it but can't open it? You're not letting me down. Good question. If you are not able to download the software, it may be because your computer is like extra security, high security, where it says like it's from the internet, you can't trust it, I need your explicit permission. You would need to go into your settings. I can show you that right now real quick. This happens a lot of the times. You go to, if you're on if you're on an Apple computer, and you go to System Preferences, and you'll see the security and privacy. What you want to do is make sure that a message will pop up in here and say like, you want to download OpenToonz from the internet, the dangerous place. And you're like, yes, I know. But it is safe to download, and so is Blender. I'm just letting you know that now. I'm not telling you to go and download everything you see on the internet. Please don't do that. You click to unlock changes, and then you put in your password, blah, blah, blah. That's not my password, but you put in the password and then you unlock it. And then you'll be able to allow the program to be downloaded. Thank you for bringing up that problem, because that does happen to most people who are on a Mac computer. Apologize for those of you who are on Windows. I have not done this on a Windows recently because I usually use my Mac computer. So, but yeah, I hope that helped for those of you who weren't able to download it. Any other issues? How do I make the animation? We're getting there, we're getting there. Somebody's like, how do I make them move? We're getting there, that's the animation part, let's do it. Okay, so if you zoom out, and in order to zoom out, you can use, what's it called? I'm using a mouse, a middle mouse key, so scroll wheel. If you're not using a scroll wheel, you can use Command minus or plus on a, on a keyboard. But don't worry too much about it. If you can't figure it out, that's okay. We'll stay where the X is. The safe spot to stay, right where the X is. Down here, you can see you have these little boxes. I'm going to be using some jargon, so take some notes. I'm just kidding, but the jargon I'm using is these boxes that I'm clicking on, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. those are called frames. So I'm going to refer to them as frames. If I say go to frame 10, you would click on the box under 10. If I go to frame 24, that would be the one that says 24 here. So we're on frame 1. And on frame 1, you'll see I have a hand. I can't draw with a hand. That doesn't make sense. I can go up to the menu where there's a brush, or just press the letter B. Press the letter B for brush. I had to find my stylus. So I got my stylus here. There's a smudge guard. And as you can see, you can start drawing onto the program. Now, I don't particularly like what I drew. Like, I'm like, this is not what I want. You can press undo. Undo is Command Z. That is probably the most important thing you'll ever learn on a computer, because a lot of mistakes happen. So Command plus the letter Z is going to undo something that you didn't like, or you didn't want to do, or you didn't mean to do. And if you are on a Windows computer, that would be Control Z. So Command Z is for Mac users, Control Z is for a Windows user. So for the person who said they need a password, if you need a password, you need the password to your computer. So the thing I showed you before, for security purposes, you have to put your password to your security preferences. If you are a younger individual who is using mom or dad's computer and you don't know their password, better call mom and dad over and get their password. Well, you know, have them type it in. I'm sure they won't give it to you. My dad never gave me his password to stuff. Okay, so the first frame we're gonna draw. Ready for this? We are going to draw a circle, and you are going to draw the eye. Oops. Now you can stylize this. So if you would prefer an almond shape, you can draw the eye like this if you want, or you can draw the eye like this, or you can color it in. So this is the first frame, the first picture. It is an eye. It's nothing too exciting yet. I always put eyelashes because why not? You'll also see it'll help us when we do the blink part. So this is the eye. The next thing you're gonna do is you're gonna go to the second picture, and you'll notice that the last picture you drew, or the first picture you drew, sorry, it disappeared. And we don't want that. We wanna see where the picture is, right? So that we know where to draw the next picture. In order to do that, you'll see there's a red and green cookie. I call it a red and green cookie, because why not again? And the red goes to the frames before, and the green goes to the frames in the future, but we don't have any future frames. So if you click the dot, if you click the yellow dot right next to your red section, you'll notice now I can see my drawing from before, but now it's in red. That means that it has been onion skinned. That's a technical term for it. I can see the previous drawing, almost like the ghost of the drawing from before. So now I know where to draw next. And on this frame, I'm going to draw, don't worry if it doesn't look great. I'm going to draw the eye, but now the eyelid is coming down because again, this person is going to be blinking. And the eyelashes are part of the lid. And that's why I say it's cool to add eyelashes, because you can actually see the lid coming down. You don't have to add eyelashes though, if your character doesn't have any. And then we go to the next frame. So we just did one drawing, second drawing, and then the third drawing. We're only gonna do, I think it's 6 before I show you how to actually see it. So the third drawing that you're gonna do is going to be, surprise, the eye again. And this time, you're gonna push the lid down, and you're also gonna push the pupil down. Fun fact I learned pretty recently, believe it or not, is because your pupil is actually kind of comes out of your eyeball a little bit, like this. When your lid comes down, it pushes your eyeball down as well, slightly. Sorry, got really anatomical there, but that's why I'm actually putting the pupil here, technically. Okay. I didn't add eyelashes, shame on me. Again, they're still attached to the eyelid. And then I have number 4, which is like this. And you can put the eyelashes on the bottom. So I did a full eye closing. And here's where we can start to cheat. The eye has closed, but in order for it to be a blink, surprise, the eyes needs to open. The eye needs to open again. And in order to do that, I can actually just copy this frame, copy, where is it? Paste. Actually, no, easier. All right, I'm gonna put this in the chat. Control copy. So in order to copy and paste, some of you may know how to do this, some of you may not know how to do this, is in order to copy something, you could do Control C to copy, and then to paste it, you would just press Control V. If you're on a Mac, it's just Command, CMD. So either Command or Control based on that. All right. So next up is the eye needs to open up. So I can actually just click on frame 3, Command copy, go to frame 5, Command paste, and I didn't have to redraw it. It's kind of like the cheat way. Teaching you a little bit of cheating, but you know, that's okay. We want to make sure we have enough time. So back to frame 2, Control copy, and Control paste onto frame 6. So it goes down, and now it's starting to come back up. Oh, I didn't paste it. I think I copied the wrong frame. Give me a sec. So again, I have to select the frame. Make sure that you're selected on it, and it's like has this little black line around it, so you know it's selected. And then make sure you're on the right frame so that you can paste it. There we go. Very important. And then frame number 1, again, click on the frame to Command copy or Command C to copy, or Control C if you're on a Windows. And on frame 7, Command V for paste. C and V are right next to each other on the keyboard, so it makes it really good. Okay, so now you'll notice there's these little white corners. I call them little white corners because you can extend it. It should always just be the same amount as your timeline so that you can play it back. So in order to play back this animation that you made, you can, the play button is just going to play it once. And that's fine for our purposes if you want to just watch the blink like this. If you want to get a headache, you can click on the loop tool right next to it to the right. And now you can watch your eye blink forever, which is pretty cool. And now with an eye blink, a character is realistically not going to be blinking their eye this many times in a row, unless they got like something in their eye, like a bug in their eye or something. So you can take the last frame, which is the fully open eye. If I turn off my onion skin, it's a fully open eye. And the little gray tab next to it, it's kind of hard to grab, so you got to be very precise with your mouse. If you drag it all the way over to like 24, and then you drag the little corner. Now it looks more natural. It's like every, so often they're blinking. And you can always extend that if you feel like it's still blinking too much and it's creeping you out a little bit. Oh, we don't want to give anyone nightmares, right? So we're just going to play that back, and now you can see the eyeball there. Okay, great question. So now this is it. This is the animation. You can spice it up with color. You can add more frames. You can make your eye look different. You can make it like, give it a whole eyebrow. You can make it look really cool. Iris, whatever. So for the next, we have about 9 minutes. I'm going to take any questions, any support you need to get your animation looking like this. It's not going to win any Oscars, but it is the just first thing that you were making, and then you can build on those skills. So those of you who have got some frames in here, congratulations, you have made your first animation, so you're officially an animator. Just like I tell people, if you've made art or you've made something, you are an artist. And so congratulations. If you're still struggling, I'm going to take questions now. Wow, a lot of questions. Okay, how do you use it on a phone? Should I OpenToons? Okay, so any questions now? Because some of the questions from before were like tech questions. If you still are having that issue, can you actually just retype in your question if you're still having an issue? Because I kind of went over some of those things. Make sure you use the Q&A option instead of the chat. I hope the person who asked about undoing in OpenToons, again, the undo is Control or Command Z. Is this for all the animating tools? Great question. So things like onion skins you're gonna always, no matter what software you're using for animation, you're gonna have an onion skin option. You're gonna have different frames. You're gonna be able to add frames. You're gonna be able to use the loop tool. You're gonna have a brush tool. Most of these programs are pretty much the same. The biggest difference is just like what it looks like. So here's an example. This is Blender. So Blender's keyframes, instead of looking like boxes, I mean, they still look like boxes, but they will be these little gold diamonds. And like, I did a stick figure because why not? Again, you can draw different pictures on it like this. You do have to select 2D animation. Otherwise you'll be in 3D like so. And you click the camera and you go back into your view. Don't want to do that. And you can draw with the brush, which is called the grease pencil in Blender. You go to draw. Okay, he's gonna have just hairs now apparently. Whoops. The draw tool's there, and I can just draw some fun stuff. And it just keeps going, and it just keeps going. And then I can go back, and he turned into a squiggle. Very unfortunate. So that's Blender. This is OpenToons. And then there is Adobe Animate. This is with the Adobe suite. So I did like a little mouth lip sync animation. Photoshop, you can even use to animate. It has a timeline, and you can use it to animate like so. Obviously, since I'm using a Mac computer, I can't show you any of the iPad softwares because I don't have an iPad. But yeah, those are the kind of like different options. And actually, I did want to make a note on the last slide of my PowerPoint, which is these are the software that I teach. So I do want to make a point that like the same way that different artists use different tools. So someone may really love watercolors and someone else may be like, I don't use watercolors. I kind of use more oil painting. These are the software that I'm most comfortable using and the ones that I teach. And you can circle in Pear Deck which ones you're most interested in learning. I teach Adobe Animate, Adobe Photoshop, Adobe After Effects, Blender, OpenToons, and TV Paint is one I didn't talk about because that is $250, but it's a one-time purchase. Whereas if you get these Adobe suites, you would have to pay $20 a month every month that you have it if you're a student or a teacher. If you are not a student or a teacher, it's like $70 a month, which is insane. And that's for the Adobe. But if you are a teacher or a student, $20 a month is pretty good when you get all the software. Blender is actually my preferred because you can do so many more things in Blender. Probably the best one. And then if you're someone who's just like, I just want to do digital drawing and build your drawing skills, I would recommend Krita, Fire Alpaca, or Photopea is a really cool one. It's like basically Photoshop, but you use it on a web browser. It's pretty fun as well. And if you sign up with lessons for me today, you can get 10% off and use the code GET10. Had to plug that in there because I am someone who is a huge advocate for online learning and online lessons because these days art schools and colleges are really expensive, and I have taken many, many online courses. I'm actually taking one right now for a certification, and I do like lots of online classes, and I think they're really helpful. So, you know, because you can watch lots of tutorials, and I do that as well. For example, if you're really struggling, you're like, I can't figure out this one button, like watch those tutorials, go on YouTube, do all those things. But even like I learned that way, I still found that like having a teacher and signing up for a class where I had a teacher and other students, like I could really ask specific questions too, where it was like, oh, I've been working on this, but like I don't know what else to do or how to fix certain things. So what app did I say for Windows? For Windows, I would use OpenToons or Blender if you're on a budget. If you're not on a budget and you want to go for Adobe Cloud, you can get Animate, Photoshop, After Effects, and you can still download those other ones for free, you know, just go crazy with all the software. How it plays, someone wants the last step of how to play it. In order to play your animation, all you have to do is press the loop tool, but make sure that these white corners are actually covering all of the frames like so. I want to make sure you cover all the frames. Great question. Someone said, how do you animate drawings that you drew on paper? Really great question. This is something I did on paper. If you can see, I did a like mini flip book thing. I recommend doing little note cards. Oh, I did it the wrong way. That was silly. You can do note card animations like that on Post-it notes. But if you have like actual drawings, you can scan them into the computer, bring them into a drawing software, and then like put them in order. It's very time consuming and exhausting. So I highly recommend you use a tablet or a drawing software instead of drawing on paper and then scanning them in one by one. If you have the patience, I go ahead and by all means, but I don't like scanning because then I got to sit at the scanner all day and scan one by one. But I have done it before. I did do a scanned animation. It was really fun. So I stand corrected many times by myself. Do these programs work with keyframes and automatic tweening, or do you have to draw every frame? Oh, good question. I only have like 30 seconds left, but in Blender and Adobe Animate, you can do tweening, and also in OpenToons, you can do tweening for automatic stuff. I am not a fan of those things because that's not the style that I'm going for. I go for a more hand-drawn look, so I put in the extra effort and time to draw. But you can do those things in the software, no problem. What would you do? How could you show? Blah, blah. Weird question. Are there any free softwares that can vector scale like Adobe Illustrator? Yeah, the OpenToons is vector. This one is a vector software. You can scale it. And Blender also is a vector software, so you can scale those as well. If you're looking for like Adobe Illustrator though, like a very specific free version of that, there really is not a lot out there. I think you really just have to pay for the software. But if you're like doing animation and you want vector, OpenToons and Blender are vector. What app did you say for Windows? Can you show us one of your animations that you made? Oh, yeah. That is time, but someone did ask to see a little mini animation of mine. My animation work is also on Take Lessons. So if you want to see all my animation work, it is on takelessons.com. If you go to my profile, thank you. If you go to my profile, you can also ask me questions with the ask question option. If your question was not answered today, please go ahead and ask me a question in there and I will respond to you personally with a typed response as soon as possible. I usually respond within, an hour or two because I'm always on my phone. It's a really bad habit, but anyway, I really hope you enjoyed today's demonstration / animation. And for those of you who did not follow along, or you came in late, or you didn't get the download software, please don't be discouraged. The first time I ever used a 3D software, I almost cried. I'm not gonna lie. I just want to be very vulnerable here because I think that some people have a bad experience maybe with animation at first, or don't let that deter you. There are a lot of times where I have failed miserably with software, with animation, and that's okay. That's part of it. That's totally okay. Or maybe that's not you. Maybe you aced it and you're like, I'm ready for the next thing. That's cool too. But I just want you to feel like it's okay if it's really hard and it's challenging for you and maybe you don't know the technology. That's totally fine. And I always work with people at whatever level they're at with technology. Sometimes I have to help people, figure out how to use a computer too, and that's okay. Sometimes even just using the computer is really challenging. No worries. All right, that is our time. So not sure how to unbroadcast, but I'm so glad you guys attended, and I hope that this was helpful. Thank you.